In a world where everyone is looking for your money up front, doesn't it just make sense to check out a podcast that's looking to give you something for free? Like the music for your content and free music for your film and videos? Look no further. It's the Tim Kulig Free Music Podcast.
Yeah,
the boogie zone.
Show me what you got going on back there, man. I can see some some keys. I see some lighting effects.
That's a crash landed alien spaceship. It's been there since 1979. I'm too scared to touch it. Yeah, I just got some boogie lights because I find the lights help you keep in the zone, and the zone is everything. This is a garage. This is not a studio. I've got some soundproofing, but it's a concrete wall garage. Without a fourth wall, it's just the door of the garage, so there's no actual sound insulation. So if my neighbor sneezes, I can hear him. Makes things a little bit difficult, but I am working with what I got here.
Yeah.
And then we got a couple of keyboards. Here's a X Station and a staged piano, like a weighted keyboard. And
excellent.
Guitars back. Little fix rack, a couple of amps there, mixing desk over here, and I have some effects as an outboard synth I use here for my 90s stuff, looper pedal, got another keyboard here, MIDI controller there. So yeah, different setups for different, depending on what I'm trying to do, you know?
You got a plethora of MIDI instruments there to choose.
I have so much, man. I'm blessed. I come from a country where people don't actually have a lot, and so when I look around here, this makes me very happy, you know.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, I can do a bit of Ableton Live with this like little grid controller, or I can just play the piano, you know. So yeah, very, very happy to have this space. And every place that I've lived in, I've had a space like this, or I've actually made a space like this. Sometimes it's a broom closet.
Yeah.
This one's not too bad. It's big, but I do need to work on, you know, soundproofing it somehow. But
right.
That's this chapter right now, you know. See how long it goes. And I see you've got a nice big keyboard there, and you got.
That's actually my overflow station. So if I show you that, like that's a secondary recording station, and then over here, I've got my iStudio, and that's got my Logic Pro set up there and everything. That's a complete studio keyboard from Native Instruments. I'm using their DAW over there. You can't really see. It's like kind of there. So
all right, cool.
So that's kind of my setup. I've been pretty much in the Logic space for probably the last 15-20 years.
Okay.
I jumped into, I'm gonna go way back in time. So
cue the flashback effects, smoky mirrors.
back in the mid 80s.
Here we are, mid 80s. Okay.
10, and I got my first IBM clone computer. So it's not even an IBM. It was like an IBM clone, an 8088. It ran at 4 megahertz, just to give you an idea of the speed. And it had a little turbo button that pushed it to 8, which I don't understand the logic behind, you know, the circuitry, or like why they did it like that back then. Well, I can tell you this much: there was a lot of ASCII games back in the day, and if you had the turbo button on, they were unplayable. So, but I have this.
I don't understand that. Surely it would have made it faster.
For whatever reason,
it
sped up. It sped up the there was something that sped up the games that were
compressed the ASCII data too much or something like that. Yeah,
very strange.
It's counterintuitive.
But I used something called Master Tracks, and it was strict MIDI. That's it. So you had to have all external instruments, and I think it only had 8 or 12 tracks, something like that. So you had to really, really know what you were writing, and if you use pitch bend information, you got latency, like real obvious latency. You know, the computer.
Yeah, I love that, man. That sounds like, so that's a tracker program, right? Like
Yeah.
just literally, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, I'm on the edge of that. I've never used one, but I've seen them being used, and I see the applications of them. It's almost like I've got a bit of a coding side to me, and it'd be very interesting to see what kind of results you could get with just, pure MIDI data, but like iterable stuff. When
Yeah.
you make a change and then it actually changes in like 10 different places or whatever,
Right.
multiple places, instead of this linear approach. With most DAWs, it's like handwriting, so you can write something and then you can delete something, you can write something. But the ability to say, I'm now going to write a note that I want to be, mutatable in multiple locations, that's
Mhm.
actually quite hard and rare in DAWs. You can do it in Reaper, but it's kind of that to me seems like it makes a lot of sense to implement that type of thing in dance music and most of the music that gets made.
Yeah.
Just the ability to change one loop or change something and have it change everywhere. It's like surprisingly rare. So I
Yeah.
think that's where trackers really shine.
Yeah. So so a little bit about your background, John. What got you started in everything? Like how far back does it go for you? I know you're like in your early 40s, right? Is that,
Yeah, yeah,
I get that
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah, no, all the way. I've got a musical background, so I started just playing music by myself from like a really early age, and then it's just been experimentation the whole way. So I've picked up various instruments along the way, and I can still play a bit of this and that. Guitar is mainly where I'm at right now. I like gypsy jazz guitar, and like I play jazz guitar in bands around town now. But and then the keys I've always had, and just like the ability to like express yourself musically has been important to me. So when I turned, like, it was about 23, I came across Reason, and that was my first introduction to electronic music. And
Okay.
it was so satisfying, like instantly being able to have all of the sounds at your disposal as opposed to just the guitar and the voice or just the piano. Like you weren't limited like that. So yeah, I mean, I've always thrived. No one's ever had to like, motivate me to make music. It's been like this constant friend with me the whole time. No matter how bad things get, I can always just have music, and just
Yeah.
sing and play and remind myself that that's worth it. And it brings me a lot of joy, and it's a spiritual path. And so at this point in my life, I'm 42, whatever. I'm not a professional. I'm like a serious amateur. And I've got no ambitions of being like a performing musician. I just take gigs when they come along.
Yeah.
But what I do have an ambition of is being a YouTuber that can like, basically just spend more and more time doing the creative stuff. So that's the journey that I'm on now. It's like providing all of that creative value to people, and in order to be recognized as as someone of value, and then
Yeah.
using that to like, sustain myself financially, and yeah, and also just emotionally connecting with people. I sit in a dark room all day, so it's useful, like when you connect with people like I'm doing with you now, then it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not just this lonely outsider. You can actually feel like you're making a difference, and helping people with their own channels and all of that. That's where the
Yeah.
Creative Commons stuff comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, my journey is very similar in
Yeah.
parallel. When I started out, I started when I was like 10 or 12. I wanted to play the trumpet, and I had like debilitating asthma as a kid.
Uh,
So my father's like, no, you're gonna play the keyboard. And part of that was because there was a band that he would go see, that this guy had this really cool keyboard setup,
uh,
and he ended up being a mentor and a teacher to me. This gentleman by the name of Bruce McPherson. He
uh,
he wrote his own music, but he also played a bunch of 70s and like ELO, and like all sorts of like like the early era of keyboards and
full on, yeah,
frequency
synth rock. Yeah, yeah,
synthesis. And actually he probably taught me more than any of uh the theory teachers I had, because he literally sat down and was like, okay, so now every instrument you ever want to play is inside this machine, but you can't play it like a keyboard. You have to play it like a piano. You have to play it like the instrument sounds. So you wouldn't play a trumpet, multi-timbral. You wouldn't have multi-polyphony. You wouldn't play chords with a trumpet, So this is how, like, you do like a little pitch bending, a little vibrato, a little this. So he showed me how to emulate all that stuff, and it was invaluable, because to this day I can just take an instrument, I'm like, oh yeah, I need that subtlety, I need to do this, like tinker with that. So
So you're
uh,
saying you've got it like you can like hear an instrument and then work out how to reproduce that sound on a synth.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's super valuable. Yeah, like
Yeah.
understanding all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. How to actually
envelopes. Yeah.
maximize the use of the patch, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, as opposed to just hammering out notes and then you're listening to it, it's like, oh, it sounds kind of good, but it's not how the instrument's played, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the two approaches to that, as far as I see, you can get like the approach which is the photorealistic representation of an instrument sound. So, for example, there are a lot of sample banks out there that just seek to emulate with, you know, modeling and all that, the exact sound of that instrument. And then you get the approximation of the sound, but it doesn't really matter if it doesn't sound perfect because it's its own thing. It's a synth patch.
Right.
And that for that to work, you have to like see that, you know, musical parts are made up of like rolls as opposed to like the purest trumpet sound. For example, the trumpet sound may be the perfect sound for a melody, but if you were to substitute that out with a synthetic sound, it's actually the quality of the melody which will translate into its equivalent sound. That makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but it's about roles. So having a pad sound that plays the role of the string ensemble in an orchestra. Do you see what I'm saying? And then having like the FM brass sound that like plays the brass role, even though they're not photorealistically sounding exactly the same, the difference to the listener isn't actually that great. That's what I'm saying. If the music's good, if the music translates, you know.
Yeah, it's also a style thing too, right? So you could be playing, if you're trying to make a traditional sounding orchestral piece, then you're going to want traditional sounding patches. However, 99% of the things I make because it's unique. It's unique in sound. It's a bridge of multiple genres. A long time ago, I threw out the rules of theory. You know, like I understand basic. You know, this is where things need to be, and this is why it sounds good or this is why it doesn't. But most of that happens in my ear because around the time I picked up instruments, picked up the keyboard, a few years into it, I joined the rock band at high school. So normally in the US, there's like jazz bands that you can join in high school. And we didn't have that. I guess there wasn't enough interest and people were like, we want to play pop music. So I was in a theory class and I had a friend pull me out of that class. Like, my teacher wants to talk to you. Brings me over to the rock band class. And somehow I just morphed into this class. They're like, nobody tried out for keys. You know how to play keys. We're learning this song. And then they just put a CD on and they start learning and they start pulling stuff from the CD. I'm like, what is happening right now? And they're like, we're going to learn by ear. I'm like, I've never done this. He's like, oh, relax. It's piece of cake. So you find the root of the chord, blah, blah, and he starts going through that whole process. This is my teacher, John Smeda in high school. He was phenomenal. Within 3 weeks, I was like, I never want to read a piece of sheet music again. I'm just going to pick up the CD and just listen to it and figure out the parts. And that was the end for me. I was like, that's all I need.
And the kids across the hall in classical were like, face palm, we lost another one.
Exactly.
Do you need serious musicians?
Do you have any theory background? Did you go through that whole process?
Yeah, I got to about grade 4 theory on the piano and the violin. And so I understand theory. I can read and write music slowly. But I find, it is useful, but it also can get in the way. Depending on where you're trying to go. So I don't throw it out completely. Like I use it all the time. Like, you know, for melodies, like how to harmonize a melody, chord families, and just listening to like kind of best practices and like it's understanding the theory of a language, any language is, it's how you get better at speaking it. It's understanding how to read and write it. It's how you get better at speaking it, and vice versa.
I find myself gravitate towards it when I fall into the same key signature all the time, you know, because I don't know if that's a thing that happens to you, but it's almost like an underlying language that's like a bass language for me. It's like, oh yeah, I'm falling into E minor, or I'm falling into C, or I'm falling into major. You know,
Yeah. Well, that's a
um,
good way to put it because it's got that magnetic pull. Whatever your home key is,
yeah,
that's got that magnetic pull. It's like the black hole of the composition. It's always wanting you to return to it, and it's so satisfying. Unlike a black hole in reality, it's really satisfying when you do. Because in reality, if you fell into a black hole, you'd be spaghettified within milliseconds and watch the
right.
entire future history of the universe collapsing as you died in agony. But yeah, so
Wonderful
that
thought.
thing of like falling into it, like going away and then coming back, that's like, yeah, a good way to look at it. And if you're in the key of E, like you mentioned, then you're going to feel quite comfortable in, B and in A, and when you're playing those little color notes within the E scale. But when you go further than that, when you start getting into like the third degree of E, which is G sharp, and now you're playing a G sharp major over an E, then you're going to start to wonder how are we going to get home, and you can go further than that, go to like, like one step out. I think of it as concentric circles. So home is like the center, and then you've got like the first orbital, which is your dominant, which is like the the closest related thing, and then it goes out from there. And that pattern in jazz follows a numerical structure. So it's 4 7 3 6 2 5 1. That's how you go from the furthest away point to the closest point. I can get into that if you want, but like any jazz musician, if you say to them 4 7 3 6 2 5 1, they'll know exactly what you mean.
Right,
So
right.
I structure my thinking around that way of thinking. But then when you look back at classical music, like even hundreds of years old, like Bach and Mozart, they laid the foundations for jazz. So you listen to their stuff, and there's a lot less, well, there's a lot more in later sort of Baroque music. There's a lot more plagal cadences, which are where you resolve from a 4 to a 1, as opposed to the dominant chorus resolve cadence, which is just from a 5 to a 1, which is the most common way to resolve music. But the point is, there are ways to go away and come home. That is
Right.
the main thing. And then music, good music, is the interplay of that, of like taking someone away, and it's tension and release, and distress and satisfaction. Like, that's the essence of it. And you can do that with rhythm, you can do that with theory and harmony, and you can do it with lyrics. And yeah, that's my understanding of it. At least it's like, how far from home base do you want to take them and then bring them back?
I find I know exactly what you're talking about um, without knowing the theoretical part of it, because I do exactly that, like sonically. Like I think
Right,
about
yeah.
like, when I go into an orchestral piece that I'm building, um, I'll find uh, complete like disassembly at some point where things are starting to, you get some crunches, you get these things that are just slightly off, you get these ghost notes that just, they're meant to be unnerving. I also write a lot of
Mm,
horror music, so that's
nice.
another reason that I do that. But coming back to the resolve and finding that chord that just
Yeah,
okay,
consonants. Yeah.
it's over. It's but then there's other pieces like in horror. I've written entire pieces that never resolve, and by the time the song's over, you're still disturbed, and it's like,
Mm,
oh well, that's the point. Like this is supposed to be for some scene or some short or whatever that's supposed to unnerve you, and
yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
keep you in
Leave
that
to,
place.
to leave you unsatisfied. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool. That's actually really useful, man. I haven't written a lot of horror music, but I like that as a starting point. Like, don't necessarily, finish.
yeah, yeah.
Just just stop, but don't finish.
Like having just these little nuances. The most recent uh album that I released that's on SoundCloud, Dead Spaces, has a tune there.
Ah,
It's called Infestations, and it ends with a Z. And it's very simple. The beginning actually almost sounds like childlike, it's got this like really
mm.
like high-end bell sounding thing that sounds like it could be like you could be on a playground and it's very nice, but then it goes into a minor key and there's this drop, and then it's just like this deep dark drone with that thing going over the top of it, and then there's like this whiny thing that comes in after a couple bars, and then these other things that just kind of mesh around, and
Ah,
it's just this, I just play with sonic, like just somersaults with that kind of music. It's just so much fun, because I'm just thinking like if you're immersed in something and this is coming at you sonically, and it's comparing, it's juxtaposed against the visuals on the screen, it gets me super psyched. I'm like, I just hope somebody finds what I see in this and does something with it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's that hope that fuels us. Hope that you're going to be of use to someone. Yeah.
it was around my mid to late 20s that I think I personally abandoned the aspirations of being a traveling musician, like being in a band, being in something that's going to blow up and become, you know, big and famous or whatever. I saw the writing on the wall, John. You know, I was like, you know, I could do one. I have one of two paths. I know I can handle businessy things and still be creative on the side and build a financial life that's satisfying and supportive, or I could go the poor, you know, scraping by musician life. And I'm not sure I want to do that. So I kind of took path A, knowing that what I'm going to become is what I like to refer to as a sonic magician, right? Like I take into that system and I paint this sonic picture, this musical picture. I make it the best I can, share it with the world, move on to the next thing. Probably never going to play that again. No interest in playing it again. Yeah, I find it satisfying to listen to, but it's more the end result and what I can create that's important to me than emulating it over and over and over again, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, no, I've been thinking the same way my entire life, but I'm turning away from that style because my goals have shifted, Tim. I want to do more with it. I run the risk. I don't know if you feel the same, but I run the real risk of like going for another 20 years, just releasing music and just putting it on streaming services and free music archive and you know having maybe one or two biggish hits come along and a couple of commissions and things, but that's like to me I think I can do better than that. Like I think I'm more ambitious than just serving my own need for some creative time and a little bit, you know, a little bit of creative output. Like what I actually want to do is see changes in my immediate circle. I want to make an impact on the people who need my expertise or the expertise of someone, you know, with my skill set in to make their productions better. It's one
Yeah.
of those, I've got an open source mindset where I've got to try and work out how to gain enough reputation points to be able to be a part of the team and to get a slice of the budget and all of that. So
Yeah.
this to me, this whole Creative Commons thing, although I do find it satisfying, I've also released 500 tracks now, and it's taken me half my life.
Right.
And I've gotten some accolades as a result of that. But now the main thing is I've gained a lot of knowledge and expertise along the way, not just about music creation and different styles, but how the internet works and how people think and how trends, you know, it's what they call psychographics. I've heard that term before, like communities that rally around ideas as
Yeah.
opposed to demographics or geographics, but idea-based communities. I'm like, okay, so I've got to find a piece of uncharted territory in terms of like, you know, ideas. And the one idea that I haven't really seen a lot of yet is Creative Commons Ableton Live templates. I know there's Creative Commons music tracks, and the Creative Commons community is kind of like quite niche and quite small, and it's like considered, you know, like it's a community. Like,
Right.
you know, if you're going to be a part of it, you're going to have to give something, which is why a lot of people just, you know, decide not to. But though I'm not interested in a lot of people, I'm interested in a small group of people who are as passionate as I am about these ideas. And so if we can connect,
Sorry about
just
this guy.
yeah, I mean maybe yeah. I saw you got a cat there.
This guy's
What's the
making a
cat's
lot of
name?
noise. Sorry.
Eh? What's the cat's name?
Kimby. He's
Kimby. All right.
he's a I get on a long enough Zoom call and he has to get involved.
Steals
So
it.
sorry about that.
Is that from Mount Kimby?
It might be. My daughter came up
Yeah.
with the name. I'm not sure where she found it. But I think it has African origins. So
Okay, Kimby.
yeah. But he's a good composer helper. Usually just screams at me.
Pause on the keyboard. Like,
I was back to your templates. I found that to be a very interesting and refreshing take on the Creative Commons journey. And the reason I do is because it encourages correct me if I'm wrong about my interpretation of it, but it seems that it is encouraging other creators to come along on the journey with you, and also give you an idea of what other people will come up with the same work set that you're using to create a song. So like you have a full song in that
Yeah.
in that, and somebody
Yeah,
can come in
that's it. Yeah.
and grab those elements and make a completely different interpretation of it, and then
Yeah.
share back. Correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, there are limitations. I've ring fenced it like a little bit. Like I don't want people to just export the file that I've made and then upload it to Spotify and not credit me. Like that's not acceptable. That's why it's Creative
Understood.
Commons. Like so, but the main idea here is just to gain data. It's to learn what the value is that I am offering. And the only way you do that is by bouncing off other people. It's invaluable to me to know, for example, my one of my most recent YouTube videos is called it's about Killer Bean, which is a web series, and I had no idea anything about it. I know that's quite popular, which is why I selected it as subject matter to remix. But basically, I've taken a very dry scene from this web series. It's an animated web series about a bean with a machine gun, and it became a sort of a cult. It became a cult hit. And then they got the actual fans to voice the episodes. So the voiceovers are really bad. They sound like Zoom calls. They're not pro actors. So it's this really kind of like friendly, like what I'm talking about, like this this edgy kind of thing. There's no big budget or anything, but it's really popular. It's got cult status. So someone mentioned on my YouTube channel, you should do Killer Bean, which actually she just said Killer Bean, please. I don't know what that meant. So I just started looking at Killer Bean.
So you had to go and do a deep dive.
I had to go and do it. Exactly. So I got into deep dive and I got the story behind it and how it's become a game and all this stuff. And the game looks pretty cool. Anyway, I'm just kind of trying to plug into the Killer Bean circle because about 3 weeks ago, I didn't know there was such a thing as Killer Bean. So that's what I'm talking about, is using Creative Commons as a vehicle. You can kind of like insert yourself into scenes. And what I'm looking for is that scene that I find at some point, I'm going to find it, that goes, holy shit, where have you been? And like now suddenly I've got offers to score games and score films and can you do this and da da da. That's the level of energy that I'm aiming for. And I don't know how to get there other than saying, hey guys, I'm waving a flag, by the way. Over here, there's some cool music, there's some free stuff going on. I show up regularly, my production quality is good, and you can see that I'm offering something to the community.
Yeah.
So it's finding those people. It's finding the people who can amplify that message for me. And yeah, I mean it's fun too, but like I'm not at the stage anymore where I'm just doing this for fun. There's an ambition behind what I want to do, and I want to replace my day job. Basically, my day job subsidizes my art. I want the art to be running on its own.
That's the flip,
the life
right?
goal. Yeah,
make
exactly.
the flip.
That's it. Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Around 2019, 2020, I decided to get. So I'd done several movies and internet things up until that point, but I hadn't published all my music through like a DistroKid or any of the other like Bandcamp or any of those other places that allow you to self-publish. And I took it real. I decided I was like, okay, I'm going to get real serious about this. I want to make a volume of music in varying styles, just a whole bunch of different things I want to explore. And on some levels, I don't give a shit if people like it or not. I just, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to share it with the world. I come to find out, people use stuff that I intended for a certain purpose in all sorts of different ways. Like I would make an orchestral piece or like a electronic piece, and they're using it for horror, or vice versa. They're using a horror piece for something else. And it's just very interesting what people resonate with and they like, and then they end up using for something. Like I published some songs that, quite honestly, I didn't feel like the bit rate was great. I didn't feel like I executed it well. And my best friend Tom Seymour was like, he's like, dude, just get it all out there. He's like, just get it all. And then a couple other mentors had just basically said to me, like, you don't get to determine, like, this isn't being mean, but you don't get to determine what other people like. You just get to make it. So whatever you make, you got to get out there, and this Creative Commons vehicle is absolutely the best way to do it. It's the best way to do it. You're not going to, that barrier, that financial barrier, nobody wants to pay for anything. Every song that's ever been written ever is available on the internet. Ever. It's out there. You can find it.
I got to challenge you on that. Like, I hear you. You don't get to decide what value it has for other people, but people surprisingly want to pay, but just not for, the ability to download a music file. They'll pay for other things. And this is where you'll find this with patronage and donation models and alternatives to the normal sort of commercial transaction. Now the question is, what are they paying for? And if you've got a regular YouTube stream and your production quality is good, you show up and then you incorporate the feedback of your audience and you actually let the audience guide what you do next, then you will start to attract revenue, because people will see, this is worth $3 or $4 or $5 or $150 a month, because I am purchasing a feeling of being a patron. I'm purchasing the feeling of guiding this cool, talented person that I'm never going to be. I'm guiding their actions. And we used to busk when I was in South Korea, and I often just wondered myself, like, why firstly I was wondering, why are we sitting here at a train station on the ground, like with instruments? But also I wondered, why do people give money to buskers? What is the motivation behind that? It's like human psychology. I don't know. You can get into it really deeply, I guess, but I think people just want to feel involved. And I think that purchasing a subscription or a membership or whatever you want, it's got very little to do with the music, and it's more to do with the connection between you and the artist. It enables them a certain access where they can go, okay, well, now I've got the right to call this person up and chat to them or whatever, and I'm expecting them to respond.
Right.
So they will pay, but just don't think they're going to buy your music. That's not what they're buying. What they're buying is access and privilege and bragging rights, maybe, and I don't know, or just maybe they're just really good people. I don't know. That's what I want to find out. Like, who are these people and what do they need?
It's surprising over the last few years, that's slowly been building for me in regards to just patronage. I think you and I are at similar capacities on that platform, but there's also been situations where I just have people that have apparently been using my music for the last couple of years that have been producing it, and I've get random PayPal infusions now and again, and it doesn't even have necessarily any narrative to it. It's like, here you go.
That's great.
And it's like, well, thank you so much. And then I get a narrative back after the fact, and they're like, yeah, we used this for a documentary we did, and I have a podcast I've been using this on. It's so great. I'll throw you an IMDb thing. Well, I'm like, I didn't even know who you are. Like, that's crazy.
This was in the soundtrack for the latest Marvel movie. So, we should really pay you $20. So $20-$30. Here you go. There you go. I'll just send you the IMDb link. Oh, don't worry.
Well, first and foremost, I do it for the art, and I feel like the revenue portion, like you're saying, with the subscription of people that are following you as the artist, as the personality, as the thing that creates the feeling. That's the build. That's really where things are at. The days of, I'm really gonna date myself here. The days of going to the mall, and there was this store called Strawberries, and here in the US, that was a place that you bought tapes and CDs and DVDs and movies and stuff. But you'd buy a CD, the latest album for somebody. It was $26. So you're taking it, like, that's a commitment, especially when you're making $6, $7, $8 an hour. At the time, as like a teenager or early 20s, you're like, there better be good fucking songs on here. Because I invested $25. That's like 5 hours of work for me, So, but that venue is gone. you have a subscription to a streaming service, or you know, or worse, like a BitTorrent or whatever, and like you're not paying anything for any of it. You just literally get it for nothing. And if you
Yeah,
a subscription to Amazon Prime, you know, you get a ton of music on there for free. You know,
totally,
millions and millions of tracks. And
supply is high and demand is low for digital music files. There is no sense in trying to, you know, dominate a marketplace if you're trying to get to the top of the charts on a record label or something like that. That approach to me it's like old fashioned. It's rooted in this idea that the music is the product. And I don't know, I've been listening to a lot of Seth Godin and this school of thought that's like the internet is here to stay and people behave certain ways. People behave in a certain way. I know we're talking a lot about like music and money and, you know, behavioral stuff, but this to me drives a lot of like how I think and motivates me to keep going, actually. Like, because although it is frustrating putting your work and your time and your actual passion into something, when it's far easier to just go to Suno and generate a song and try and sell it, like most people are doing. The flood of mediocrity, the floodgates are just opening right now. Like we're going to see, like you're already seeing it on YouTube, just like completely AI generated songs that are trying to masquerade as actual artists. And it's great news for us as actual artists, because eventually, you know, the stuff does surface that's real. But the point is, it's just frustrating, the time difference between doing the work and receiving the reward. But one thing we haven't really gotten into our heads yet, because we're not biologically evolved to understand it, is that digital stuff hasn't got a shelf life. It doesn't expire. So we can't actually rely on this kind of initial wave of like what they call the short head, which is like hype the release, pump marketing spend into it, and get as much out as you can before the next person comes along and steals the market.
Right.
That's not how we must approach it. What we must do is say, all the music I'm releasing now is still going to be online in 30 years, okay, or maybe longer. So I've got to think about how to on-ramp to a period to sustainability. And it's like, it just means sowing a lot of seeds, starting very small, and taking your initial users' feedback and interactions with your initial users very seriously, and figuring out what you're doing it for. If you're doing it for yourself, if you want to be someone who has the ability to just get into the synth zone and have fun every night, then that's your journey and that's what you want. And if you're someone who wants to do that, but also meet people halfway and find this kind of golden middle path where you get to do some of what you want, but also start to make a career out of it, then that's like a mature approach to it all. And that's where I'm headed right now. Like there is no other path that I think can unfold when you actually doing it for other people and you're actually motivated by, you know, desiring to show up and provide value for a community. And you actually do the work, then that's what happens. So I've got a lot of faith in it all, and I've got a lot of understanding now about, you know, the internet and more about how it works. And basically you can't think of your music as a can of beans that you're trying to sell. People might pay $5 for it, like a can of beans, but what they're buying is not actually a can of beans, it's something else. And that's a new idea. That's like, now we've got to think, we've got to like get out of like, you know, ape mode and start to think like really, really freaking futuristic modern citizens, because the internet's not going away, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I'm not struggling with, but it's the evolution of my content. My content had been strictly, okay, I've got a new release. Okay, I've got a new release. Okay, here's a new song. Here's like blah, blah. But that becomes stagnant and boring to people if you don't encapsulate it in some kind of content that educates, entertains, and informs, you know, in the same time. So now I've shifted my thoughts to what value can I add with the catalog I want to create. Like I want to create a 2,000 to 3,000 song catalog because I want to create it, because I want to explore pretty much every music genre that I ever want to consider. You know what I mean? There's
why 2,000?
Why 2,000? I don't know, just an arbitrary number. I'm like, 2,000 is like, how many people have written 2,000 songs, right? Not a lot.
You're doing it because Kevin did 2,000.
There's part of it. That's part of it for sure. For sure.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, the track count is real, bro. I feel that. You're like, how many tracks have I got? Yeah. What you mean.
I'm close to 6, but I also am realistic in the sense that I don't want to suffer quality for quantity either.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
there are things that there are styles out there and things that I do in between the really complex things that I feel I like. Symphony of Swords is a orchestral album I came out with last summer. It is probably some of the best orchestral stuff I've ever produced, in my opinion, for myself.
Awesome.
And it has resonated with a bunch of people that have used it. But I do that style, but I also do meditative things, or I call it like space albums. It's really ambient space tunes that have a sci-fi element. They don't evolve much, but they do their thing. And those I like equally as much, but it's a mindset thing. Sometimes I'm in between complicated styles that I'm writing, and I'm like, my brain needs a break, but I still need to be creative. I still need to keep exercising that part of my body, that part of my brain, and not lose not lose the habit, and don't lose the pattern, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
And it pulls me out of basically it pulls you out of writing the same song over and over again, because that totally happens if you stay in the same style for too long. It'll just drive you. It drives me nuts. I'm like, God damn it! I wrote that already. I don't want to write that.
Yeah. You got to break rules, man. I've figured out that. So the ad for that Hans Zimmer masterclass, that was a YouTube ad a while ago, and he's like, if there's a rule, break it. I'm like, that's such a great thing to say.
Yeah.
If there's a rule, break it. If you've got some internal comfort zone that you're not going to progress until you get out of it, until you challenge whatever it is that you think you're not good at or whatever. Like just break the rule, you know. It might sound bad, but
I've watched a couple episodes of that masterclass. Nice. And the beginning of it, he talks about just finding a melody, a line, single note line, and just like talking about how just a simple subtlety, a subtle change of it can make the difference between a good song and a great song. But start from that. I mean, if you listen to the whole soundtrack of Inception, I mean, it's 4 chords, not several songs, and they're all variants of that same progression, because it's that whole going inside the brain, that repetition and everything. You feel it through the whole movie. That it's like a refrain underneath pretty much every piece that they make, that he orchestrated over there. I mean, I know he has a team. It's not all him, but it's his vision, right?
Yeah.
I find it brilliant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Hans Zimmer is like a mythological figure, no matter who you speak to. He's famous and popular, but I mean, not a lot of people know how much work he's done. Like he's been scoring films, for 40 years now, and
right.
Not just scoring films, but progressing it.
I remember him in the Buggles with "Video Killed the Radio Star." Like
that's right. Yeah, he was in
player that the first song on MTV. So.
Yeah, no, he made the right decision, I think, in choosing film composing. I think he's done well. He's done all right for himself. Hans Zimmer's like, I mean, he dominates a little bit. Everybody knows Hans Zimmer, but the work that he does is, it's hard. It's hard to critique. If I was going to critique it, I know the Dune soundtrack just seemed a bit too repetitive for me. There was, I don't know, just not enough variety. But I mean, that's just me being a prick. Like it's absolutely brilliant, and just also capturing the essence of it. Like, I don't know if you like. I'm a fan of Dune. I just love the whole message behind it.
Absolutely. His take on
he captured that like exoticism with the strange exotic scale modes and that kind of thing. Like, it's just he just knows what to do. Like, I think.
Yeah.
It probably helps like having a lot of freedom. I think that he probably has a lot of freedom because people just hire Hans Zimmer, and Hans Zimmer is amazing, and no one tells Hans Zimmer what to do, really.
Right. It's his interpretation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, the Blade Runner 2049, that soundtrack's phenomenal. And the fact that he does multiple pieces in there that are an homage to the original composer, who is that? I'm drawing a blank on it, from the first movie.
Vangelis.
Vangelis, correct.
Yeah.
Like that callback was beautiful, you know, like just I don't know. There's the again I think I gravitate and radiate with it, or resonate with it rather, because there's an ambient element to a lot of his orchestrations that, to me, it's like this simple, subtle, and then like this build of orchestral underneath it. But there's less notes, less is more, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want to
yeah,
tell
yeah.
a story, and you want to just gently guide people sonically in the direction you want them to feel, you know? I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. I like that a
totally.
lot.
Your
Whereas,
ability to succeed as a musician now is so firmly reliant on your ability to succeed as a producer. You'll get further being a really good producer with average musical chops than you will the other way around.
mhm,
And that's just because, you know, because our ears are so very finely tuned towards what a song should sound like in terms of like how it's mixed. So if anything stands out, then it really it goes off the map. The second your guitar is a little bit too loud or hasn't been perfectly produced, it really pushes your song like down the charts in terms of like how many people you're going to reach.
right.
Because everyone's listening to music all day, it all sounds very well produced, and so the second something different comes along, it kind of sticks out a bit too much. So I've actually gradually over time, and this ties into how Hans Zimmer's done it too. He's like shifted away from musicality and towards production innovation. And way back at Pirates of the Caribbean, they were pushing the limits. They were like, building their own computers basically to house the orchestral samples that they needed to trigger and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So they've really, I think for a long time, uh, Hans Zimmer and that caliber of composer has like focused more on the composition. So on the production, sorry. So now I'm like, okay, so if your success relies on production, then okay, I can't do that kind of stuff in the studio, right? I'm not going to be able to pull it off. But there are certain things that you can prioritize. So we've got an obsession with bass. The low end of music now is a music track has to have a very full and dominant bass. And
Mhm.
treble control is also super important. People are listening bud headphones more. So how music is mixed now is to prioritize bass and to control treble. So I've taken like a good listen to some of my earlier stuff. I'm like, right, that's what I was doing wrong. The
Mm.
roll of graph should be like that. It should be like quite a steep kind of let some of the mids through, but already start to cut the high mids. And then as for treble, like nothing over 10K and also quite a sharp drop off. Just basically dip it all and then just push it up until it starts to feel like this might sound a bit tinny on bud headphones. That's how you should mix something now. So that's
Yeah.
one example of like, yeah, it's got nothing to do with music per se. It's sound and frequency. It's a completely different skill set. But as
Yeah,
the
right.
solo composer, you have to learn these things because no one's going to come and mix your music for you, especially not for free.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, like, if there's anyone who watches this and wants, like, probably the best advice I could give in terms of producing music is like, don't just focus on the notes, focus on the actual frequencies. In fact, focus on the frequencies in the production more if you want your music to travel. If it's about reaching people and being playlisted or whatever, then you
Right.
have to fit the formula. You have to fit in. You have to conform. It's not what an artist wants to hear. It's not what I wanted to hear for
No.
so long. I've outgrown that idea now. Like that you could like be a nonconformist and get away with it. I just don't see that like for me anymore. It's not about that at all. It's about fitting in and providing actual value to someone. So like their video is not going to sound bad just because I didn't want to learn how to mix it properly.
Right. That's one reason I've gravitated to uh the Logic, platform. A lot of the software synths that are made for that, they're all very well mixed, right? If
Mm,
you take stuff from Heaviosity, Native
mm,
Instruments,
mm,
um, to a lesser extent, there's some others out there. Um, I've had some luck with like 8DO,
mm,
but there's ones that really pop for me and really
totally.
do the thing. I find that moving those around in sonic space and adjusting levels and panning and everything, a lot of times 90% of the work is done because they're just so that the patches themselves are well produced.
Yeah,
They've
yeah,
already
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
they've already thought about this. They're like, we know where it needs to be sonically. And if you don't go too far off reservation with this, you're gonna be okay.
Don't mess with it. Like, we made it nice. Don't destroy it.
You crank this up an extra 6 dB. Like, no, you're doing something wrong. It's like, what are you doing? Stay away from that. What do you find personally, like, that? What are the styles that you focus on the most? I've listened to some of your stuff and I really like it.
Thanks.
But I noticed you like, I for the 5 or 6 tunes I was listening to this morning, those airy guitars are a big thing that you like.
Airy guitars, yeah.
Like very spacey, airy guitars. I'm like, ooh, I like that style too. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I got to listen to more of the tunes that you got this in.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the limitation of, like, just being able to play the guitar. I mean, if I could play the trumpet or the saxophone, I'd be using that a lot more. But so trying to find ways to maximize my current setup and skill sets. Rock guitar, a little bit of solo ability. So I'm like, okay, so now that means if I want live instruments in my tracks, I have to pick certain styles.
Yeah.
So for the last year, it's been mostly I've been looking at the past basically. So drum machines and guitars and synths. So 70s boogie music. That was one of my recent albums, Retro Boogie, 10 tracks, and then the 80s action montage stuff, which there's kind of a bit of overlap. It's all kind of retro, but it's drum machines and rock guitars or boogie guitars, kind of funk style stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, 80s, 70s and 80s, that kind of thing. But I'm actually going to start narrowing down in terms of genre, because I find it draining going, okay, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And then constantly pushing my ability and then putting out a product that is kind of only half as good as someone specializing in that field. So I've got to kind of sort of specialize a bit. And the thing that I'm doing that not a lot of people are doing is 90s sitcom music. That's my big hit. That's
fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is built on this one album I did, which is like 90s sitcom music. So I'm going to just get back into that now. I'm using this synth over here, which is the Korg 05RW. It's an old fashioned thing. It's not even it doesn't even have a keyboard. It's just literally the sound module.
Oh, nice.
It's got one of these, let me see if I can play some of it for you. Have I got it set up? Oh, while we're chatting, I'll try and plug this in. I should have actually done that before. But I'll get some sounds out of this for you. You can get instantly, you'll hear like what that sounds like. And it's like, oh yeah, that's like just like a TV show from the 90s or whatever.
Sweet.
And it's fun as hell, and then you put some live guitar on it.
Well, that's first and foremost, it needs to be that, right? It needs to be fun. If it's not fun, what comes out of you is going to suck.
Unless you got one of those clients that's got all the money and none of the sense, then you can just, just do a good enough job, and that's also possible. But fun certainly helps with motivation. Yeah, if you're on a deadline or you want to get something out that's got the spirit, then the fun is the spirit. In fact, that's what you hear when you hear the music. It's the sound of the enthusiasm that's gone into the music to begin with.
I think at one point I had a Korg M1R. So that was the rack mount version of the M1, which I played in high school, which was, nowadays you can hear the limitations of the sampling rate that they had back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The
limitations are part of it.
It was still damn good. There was nothing else out there that was doing that. Otherwise, you had to jump into an FM synthesizer and emulate the piano sound or emulate a trumpet sound, and
exactly.
It just had waveform written all over it and no real sound. It was as close as you can get.
It just had waveform written all over it. I love that.
Those are fun. Those are fun instruments to play. But again, you're limited to, you have to lug all that stuff around. Lugging all that stuff around, having a really complex studio MIDI setup where you got to trigger all these things, and every time you go outside of the computer, you're running the risk of additional latencies, based on the systems you have and everything. So once they had software synths, I was pumped. But that mid to late 20s, I started with a Pro Tools system for like 4 or 5 years, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was as user friendly as the Logic system. You know, because the
Right.
Logic is basically GarageBand on steroids.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So,
um, and I just once I got a taste for Logic, I just abandoned the Pro Tools, route entirely. I just felt like the equipment was expensive. I had a lot of latency problems, even though I did adjustments to the software and everything, and it just that's how I found my DAW. How did you find Ableton? Like, was it from live performance? Was that ultimately like, and then it gravitated to your home studio? Like, how did that work?
yeah, well, I was on Reason at the time, and someone showed me Ableton, and then
Hmm,
I got a bit like turned off because it was too difficult to learn
hmm,
because you didn't have everything, visually. Like Reason's great with dragging and dropping,
hmm.
um, parts. But yeah, and then about a year later, I came back to it. I'm like, whoa, this is actually better. It's a better compositional tool, if you ask me, because you've got the ability to write multiple ideas and then hear how they sound together quite
Yeah.
quickly. You bypass the mouse and you get into like play. So yeah, and then I just took like it was about 10 years and was just in Ableton. And then yeah, about 3 4 years ago now, discovered Reaper. I'm like, whoa, this actually even beats Ableton for certain things, not everything. But now with anything orchestral, or if I'm doing narrative scoring, so if I've got like dialogue or picture to score to, if it has
Yeah.
to be timed, then I'll definitely prefer Reaper. And also all my orchestral native instrument stuff is it's kind of optimized for Reaper.
Okay.
So I use Ableton for the Creative Commons music mainly because I create Ableton templates. Reaper's not as popular. I'd love more people to be into Reaper, but I get it. It's not set up for like beginners to just start making dance music because it doesn't have its own sounds built in like Ableton does, and it doesn't have like a composer kind of feel to it. Um,
Was sample based or like?
it's more like yeah, audio based. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's a beast, and Reaper is pretty much one of the, it's the best value for money that I've ever, experienced with like software doors. Is like
Is it PC
um,
based or is it both PC and Mac?
Reaper's both, yeah.
Okay.
Reaper's like what Pro Tools should be. It's like Pro Tools without the price and the industry dominance. It really deserves. It's like the underdog. It really, really deserves. Like the first thing that made sense to me was the ability to write your own keyboard shortcuts. So I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't get this in Ableton or anything. Like you could do it in Pro Tools and Premiere and other programs, but then you could not just write keyboard shortcuts, but you could say, all right, when you could create macros or groupings of keyboard shortcuts. So if you've got a common task, like for example, I want to split a clip, I want to create a 400 millisecond crossfade on the end of clip A and the start of clip B. Then I want you to duplicate that entire track, but delete the contents. And you can create all of this. You can script, basically. It's like programming. And then they do
Okay.
have an actual console too. They've got like what they call reconsole, which means it's Lua scripting, which is a little bit similar to JavaScript. But it's the same logic. And you can create really sophisticated chains of commands that will allow you to write music like with a bulldozer as opposed to a shovel. Like you push a button, I mean, theoretically, you could just write an entire program and like just push the letter A and it'll generate an entire song for you based on that. It'll take a lot of work, and it'll generate the same song every time. But I'm just very, very impressed at how like well, it's the guy who invented Winamp back in the day, the guy who
Okay.
coded Winamp.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's really community. Like the forums are incredible. People are just like striving to help each other out. So I've had a really good experience with Reaper so far, and all that for $60, and
That's dirt cheap.
and then even if you don't want to pay, you just get a nag screen for like 5 seconds every time you boot up, and it doesn't let you update. But it's really like I don't know. It's like what software should be, if you ask me. So as a
Yeah.
musician and a software guy, I'm like, okay, this is great. This is
Well,
the right edit.
it sounds like the kind of thing that. Oh, there you go.
You got it.
Fix that.
Cool. Nice. Because sorry, what were you going to say, Tim?
Well, it sounds like that sounds like a tool that you'd resonate with because you opened up saying that you have some programming background. So that's kind of how your brain works, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a noob with the programming, but it's one of those things that hasn't gone away for like 5 years straight. So
Yeah.
I'm coding like a podcast app at the moment. Basically just copying a podcast app called Podcast Addict. It's one of the leading ones. on Android, and I'm just I'm trying to figure out how to basically put it together. But I've got experience in like audio playback, and on my site there's a library of all of the tracks that I've done, which is playable in a persistent player, which means you can navigate around the site while you're still listening, like Spotify.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to specialize. Well, I am specializing in like React-based audio applications, and then at some point I'd like to transition over to mobile and actually start writing, apps for mobile.
Cool.
Seems to make a bit more sense. So yeah, I'm just very kind of rapidly expanding my skill set. But I mean, I've got way too much stuff on the go. Like every 2 minutes, I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And so what I've got to learn as I go into this next chapter of life is how to focus, how to get what I want, not by having 6 pots on the stove, but by doing the opposite, by actually just focusing on one at a time,
It sucks having so many interests, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the ability to actually show up and do the homework, like I can actually do this stuff.
Yeah. That's my problem too. I go down these rabbit holes and I'm like, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. Like, or like you only have so many hours in the day, dude, and you have other responsibilities. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna pick and choose. Like July for me, John, is Christmas time. I've promised myself for the 3rd year now that I'm making a or multiple Christmas albums.
Christmas albums, yeah.
If I get started in July, they'll be available to propagate just in time for the holiday season. So
yeah, which is actually kind of October or whatever.
Yeah, really.
Okay, let's go through some patches here. Where are those 90s sounding drums that I used? That's orc. Sorry, the screen's backwards. This type of thing.
Oh, I love the.
Yeah.
The gated reverb.
Yeah, the gated reverb sound. That, I mean, that is so Phil Collins.
E.
Love. One of them, and then you got these ones over here. Where's this percussion kit? It's got no beats. There's this one that I use again and again. GM kit. So this is the one that...
General MIDI kit?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, that's totally... How many rap artists use that kit?
Exactly, yeah. It sounds exactly like that, huh?
But I can hear a Run DMC song in the background.
Yeah, so you got that. So I make those types of sounds, and I add that to honky tonk piano sounds, and that's where the 90s stuff that I've been writing comes from.
Yeah,
that's fun. You can tell it's just like really cheesy and it sounds authentic, and that's because this machine, this synth, was probably from about that era. So it sounds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's where like last year I did like a synthwave album. I did a Buddy Cap album, which was all like inspired by like Police Academy movies and like
that's it.
Lethal Weapon and that kind of thing. Like just those like montage tunes that were in the background.
Totally, yeah.
Also, a couple of those tunes on that album had they had like a NYPD Blue or like any of those cop dramas that are in the US here.
Totally. The missing ingredient for me is the sax. I can't play sax, but you need that kind of like, like, that kind of, just to get that era right, because there was a lot of sax and drum machines going down,
Well, that's a callback to my old teacher, Bruce McPherson. Like, I would sit there and play chords with a saxophone. He's like, no. He's like, you want a sax solo? First of all, it's one note monophonic.
Yeah.
Which, to all the kids at home, you play one note and that's it. Because you can't play multiple notes on a saxophone. You play one, and you can play a bunch of them fast, make it sound amazing. But hanging on them, give a little vibrato when you're holding a note, a little bend up, that kind of thing. You sit there and I just maximized understanding how to use those wheels, man.
Yeah, there are a lot of these types of sounds on here too. I'm in the drum section at the moment, but you'll hear like this is Seinfeld all the way.
Yeah.
No, that's like. No.
Yeah. That's totally the patch from that.
Slap bass, that type of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a
That's
sax
totally
on
the
here,
patch
so
they used.
distortions. Trying to find a sax now that you mentioned it. It's not always called sax either. Sometimes it's called something else. Yeah. I mean, they've got combo patches. And actually, I came across something by accident the other day, which worked out quite well. I was routing MIDI like I showed you now, and then I started playing a patch. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds so good. I realized I was triggering two synths at the same time. I was triggering this one and the X Station. They've both got their own sound modules. And I was like, whoa, this is like now layering. The only problem with that is that if it's on patch number 48 on one of them, and you change the patch on either one, it's going to change.
Send that
both.
MIDI
So you're locked
signal.
into certain combinations of patches.
Yeah.
But some of them work, and others are weird, but they're interesting. And yeah, so I'm just having fun getting a bit offline these days. You know, I spend so much time on computers, so it's like the more time I spend in these little devices, which is so dedicated to just one or two sounds at a time, the happier I am.
Jordan Ruiz from
What's that?
Jordan Ruiz from Dream Theater does that.
Yeah,
with, like, his
yeah,
live
Jordan
patch.
Rudess,
Like,
yeah.
the solo patch, the big solo patch he has that sounds almost like a guitar. I think it's like 4 or 5 instruments layered together. And
Right, yeah,
I
yeah.
watched something where he was like mixing it and matching, like getting the sound for the live. This is how I create the sound. He had like a Juno and this and that, like a bunch of different instruments, and it's just like, holy crap! I had no idea it was that involved. You know?
Yeah, that guy's a machine.
Yeah.
But
ever
yeah, I
owned
was
a-
going to ask you, like, where is this all going for you? You know, like you got a podcast going here, you got a YouTube channel. You're obviously someone who's still just pushing their own boundaries, and you said you wanted to just make music. You know, do you have any other sort of ambitions on, you know, where you want this to go, or are you happy where you are? You know, like, I'm just asking you straight because you're a guy in the same position as me. We sit in our rooms and make music all day. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any delusions of grandeur, right? Like, me personally, I feel like guys like yourself, me, the Alex, the Kevins, you know, like all of us, Kevin's his own universe, but but
we're the satellites. We're the planets.
he's like a giant. He's like
The king
Antares.
who rules.
You know, he's like a giant sun comparatively.
He's a mentor to us all. He's yeah.
He's
no,
like
God bless him.
ton 682 or whatever that freaking giant black hole is.
Yeah, no, Kevin. What Kevin's done is shown people a way, and he's been an early adopter of the internet, and that's why he succeeded. He was there kind of at the beginning, and he was generous, and I believe that what he's done is applicable to everyone. Maybe not at the scale. Maybe he's the icebreaker ship, but the point is, we can connect with people and make them really happy and generate like a real buzz about our stuff if we're committed and devoted. And I mean, he must have done so much work. Like, I have no idea how much time he spent in front of a computer writing music and packaging it and uploading it and creating websites and custom JavaScript and, you know, PDF generators for his site. And no wonder he's at a stage now where he's just like, you know, just whatever. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to get involved in admin because he's earned the right to just be an artist. And I think that's what we all like kind of aspiring to. But he's done so much admin. He's done an incredible amount of like publishing admin, you know?
Yeah.
That's just as inspiring to me as the actual music.
Yeah. I mean, that's making people happy and having them enjoy and listen to and resonate with my music, and then share it, like it enough to share it with other people. Like, that's my phase one. You know what I mean? Like, that's I'm trying to build a community of creators, movie makers, TV, video, everything online that I'm a go-to for this stuff, and have a boutique collection of fellow artists that they go to. Because like you know, I'm the first to admit it's what I write isn't always what you need. You know what I mean? Like I have a very specific style. Everybody has their own DNA in their music, you know? So even if I do horror versus this versus that, something may not click, but hey, maybe it's John's track, or maybe it's Alex's, or Kevin's, or somebody else's. Like, my feeling is that this is the future of music distribution. This is the future of getting it into people's ears and getting it into their product and into their content. And what I see myself doing, where I see this going, is building a community that I'm helping supply a sonic narrative for whatever it is that they're creating. And it brings me incredible joy to see how people use my music in whatever visual thing that they're creating. And it's super enjoyable. A couple weeks ago, I went to a movie premiere of a documentary me and Tom Seymour, well, my best friend, are putting out, and we're putting through the festival circuit right now, called American Expendables. And
American Expendables.
Yes. It's I could probably send you, I think we have it hosted on a private Venmo or something like that. If you ever want to watch it, I could send you a link. But right now it's going through the festival circuit. Actually, it'll be out on I want to say it's Freebie or Tubi in August, and the actual date it's available, I can send you some linkage.
Yeah, let me know.
I'll probably, in addition to telling you directly, I'll have it on my Patreon and like all my socials and stuff too. So
cool.
But I, like you, am at a stage now where I'm like, yeah, I've done the corporate world thing. Can I go back to it? Sure. You know, accounting and finance, those things don't change. You know, that's a yearly cyclical thing that I know how to do. I know how to manage. I know how to report on. A lot of people don't, their brains don't do that, but I guess math and music are the same thing, or a very similar thing. So my brain handles both of those things. But I'd really like to build this to a point where it's self-sustaining, it pays all the bills, and then some, and then I just can be an artist. I could just create for the rest of my life and provide that kind of value, you know?
What are the obstacles to that?
The obstacles are stuff that you've already touched on, I think, in our conversation so far, which is how do you get it in front of people, right? So recently I've been experimenting with Facebook ads, right? And they've been actually very positive to build followers and or legitimate organic followers on my main page, which has also opened up the ability for my music to be heard further, because with more people following you, with more people and more engagement on the page, it's just kind of opening up different aspects of that platform. And now some people would say, like, okay, well, the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, that's not really their platform. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's not an underserved group there, because I'm finding here in the US that there's a bunch of people around my age. I'm only like 6 or 7 years older than you. I'm 49. So, but my age or a decade older than me, a lot of people have become frustrated with traditional jobs and traditional marketplace. And they're trying to do their own side thing, their own side hustle, their own thing online. And they're struggling to navigate with the legalities of copyright and everything. And I'm finding this path now, John, that it's like, oh, they need to be informed. They need to understand what they can and can't do. They need to understand the right way to do it so that they don't get their content pulled down, they get frustrated, and they give up, right? So I see a value add there. I see a value that can be added as us as musicians that are giving stuff away under Creative Commons royalty free, that will reinforce the brand, will reinforce people using it, but also provide that value, right? And provide that service. It's the whole reason
Yeah.
I'm engaging frequency music, is because I know if on a long enough timeline, the people that are using my music are going to run into a problem if I don't protect the catalog and show a way and a path to using it under this registration process with a simple attribution language, which 90% of the people that use my stuff that I can search for are using the attribution anyway, so it doesn't matter, you know. But it also, like, I'm coming at that from a let's protect the creators first. I don't want somebody else going out there and registering this and screwing up all the stuff that you did and being like, hey, there's this claim. It's not me. It's not me. I didn't claim that. So that's why I want to get in front of it. You know, I'm early enough in the game that I can do that. Whereas, I don't know, somebody like Kevin, that stuff is so embedded in the internet. I joke, it'll probably break YouTube to register all that stuff.
You should just do it like final will and last will and testament, like delete my entire catalog and red flag any usage of it online. He'll put people out of jobs, man. Yeah, okay, so that's cool. So then that's more of an educational role then. You'd be relying on, like, you know, keeping up to, because I mean, I've been reading this, I'm planning a Creative Commons video now, like basically what is the role of AI in Creative Commons, and I've been reading this stuff on the organization's website, and it's basically just still a big gray area. They're saying, for example, oh no, sorry, I wrote it down. It's the challenge is distinguishing between what has been created by AI and what hasn't, because it's currently we haven't developed a way to do that. So that means it's an incentive for the flood of mediocre, music to start disguising the stuff that's been hand curated. So it might be the case that these platforms like Free Music Archive, which is built on Creative Commons ideals, they'll have to start putting terms and conditions in around AI usage, AI generated content, or perhaps have a separate category for it or something like that. And I mean, there will be recognition tools. They'll pop up, like it won't actually be that hard in future to figure out what has been written by Suno and what hasn't. We're already starting to see that plagiarism checkers with ChatGPT and that type of thing. So it's not just a completely opaque system where we just have to accept someone's word for it. We can actually double check, but it's all of this admin around it that makes it particularly difficult and subject to misunderstanding. So yeah, I think that if you're going in the direction of becoming some kind of agent of education or information around Creative Commons, then yeah, I encourage you to do that. I think it's going to grow. It's been around for 20 years. I know Lawrence and the other guy aren't going to be around forever, but I think the philosophy of having something to fill in the gap while the law tries to catch up with the technology is like, this is this kind of like, Creative Commons is this kind of like ramshackle idea. Like, okay, guys, we can't have a complete vacuum here. That's just going to make it like abuse for everybody. Right. So we have to have some way of attributing artists and there's got to be something rather than nothing. So I'm a believer in it, but it's really hard. Like, there's not a lot of search volume for stuff like Creative Commons. People don't know what it is. They just search for royalty free or copyright free. So if you're trying to make a name as someone if you're trying to plan a business or you're trying to grow a community on the back of making a name as someone who's into, Creative Commons knowledge distribution, then I think it's going to be quite a long game, to be honest. I think. Yeah,
it's definitely not something. Not a short game by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, well, and that's what makes it a community thing. To me, it's like it's like church or something. It's like you go and you show up and you help out and you pour the coffee and you become a part of the community, and then you go home after like a day of that and you're like, well, no one paid me to do that, but then 6 months later you get something that you needed for free and it saves you money. That you would have spent somewhere else. And that's what community is. It's like, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. But in this case, I think you can actually, you can make a career as a Creative Commons musician, but I think you just have to be extremely prolific and you have to also, I mean, this, I don't know if this is right or not, but you have to get some kind of promotion from an established platform. I don't think it's possible to just become someone who's known for it. Like, look at Rose Aretti. She publishes as Mon Plaisir. That's one of her aliases on Free Music Archive. She's released hundreds of tracks, all public domain, and a lot of them just really rough, like a one-take recording of her singing and playing guitar or something. All like, and it's to me, it's like that is kind of it's kind of like the goal, but also part of the problem. You know, like. The problem is we can't find the signal in the noise. I'm sorry, we're getting really serious here now, but this is like,
that's
I
cool.
think about this stuff all the time. The problem is the signal gets lost in the noise. And so curation is actually key. You've got to stand out somehow. And that's why I'm saying, like, you need to have the platform actually feature you. You need to have Free Music Archive put you in some kind of featured spot, or you have to have the algorithms on Spotify or whatever to like push you. Like, I don't think you get very far until you reach that point.
Yeah.
And so it's also, there is a little bit of gamification. Like, I'm definitely not someone who like sits and like fusses over analytics on YouTube and tries to figure out how to game the algorithm and all that. That's not my plan. My plan is to wait. It's to continue to show up and to continue to wait. And I've got, you know, like some successes as a result of that. Like I'm doing the orchestral redo for Fall of Civilizations. I wrote a track 4 years ago called Home at Last. I released it as public domain. The guy who runs a podcast called Fall of Civilizations, used it as the theme tune. I started getting traffic from that. And then recently I reached out to him and said, do you mind crediting me? He doesn't have to because it's CC0, but he's a very cool guy, Paul Cooper from the UK. And the show is phenomenally successful.
Wow.
Their episodes, 30 million plays on each episode. So I'm getting people visiting my page just because they like the music. They want to know who wrote the music. And then some of them, one guy just donated me $100 the other day. People buy the sheet music for the track. And so I said to Paul, okay, well, if you want, why don't we develop this theme? And he's like, great. So now he's commissioned me, like basically the best paycheck I've ever gotten for writing music, to do an orchestral version of this. It's a win-win. Like his fans will love it. It's just like this new version of the tune. And so that none of that would have been possible without me 4 years ago putting it online for Creative Commons, waiving my rights to the track. That's the only reason he discovered it. He's starting a podcast. He doesn't have a budget. He's looking for free music. So it's a kind of this is how it works. Like, you have to think in terms of
an easy path.
Cycles. Yeah.
It's not an easy path at all.
It's easy. And that was lucky. I got a bit lucky there, but you know, like I've spent way more time than I've earned on this stuff, but the game isn't over yet.
No.
You know, the game isn't over yet. In 10 or 20 or 50 years' time, people are still going to be discovering this music that's sitting online, unless I'm mistaken and the whole world just erupts in a garbage pile of AI. I don't know.
Well, that's another subject I wanted to bring up with you. The AI music generators, like specifically, what you call it, Suno and Udio. You know, Udio to a lesser extent, but Suno. I'm finding that then there's huge lawsuits right now against them from all the big guys. You know,
good luck.
Universal, Sony, all the big guys are like, you know, you're not telling us where this is coming from. We can hear similarities, blah blah, in there. And I don't know if you've ever ripped one of those apart from the waveform, but what's really interesting about these models is that what you're hearing is really one instrument that morphs between all the other stuff. Because when you pull those out, you'll hear the bass in its own thing. You'll hear the vocals in its own thing. But then you'll hear these auditory artifacts that show where on the sonic spectrum, like the drums are coming in, and you can feel that come in, you know, come into the audio, the vocal patch, and vice versa, and everything. So it's like it produces it the same way that ChatGPT produces an answer word by word by word. It's doing the same thing with the music, right? It's taking it in these little cuts, and yeah, you're separating it into the requisite parts, and most of it is separated out if you do that in Logic and you pull it apart. But like there's a different methodology to it than what you and I do when we write things. We write things one part at a time, layer them, and do this weird thing. And I don't know that it until that model, the way that model creates music, it's not going to change. So it's always going to have those strange nuances where I don't know if this resonates with you, but like how like when somebody's singing, sometimes like the guitar and the vocals kind of crossfade, and then there's like this delay in front of the voice where it's kind of like it kind of comes into the voice, into the thing, and it's not a natural sound. It's not a natural sound at all. And then even the tail end of it does that too. And even the soloing will come in, and the soloing is like some white noise that suddenly becomes a guitar and suddenly isn't, which has its own little effect and feeling to it too. It's very unique. It's very unique. But for these companies to scream that, that it's a copyright infringement, what's to say I don't sit there over a 2-week period and listen to every Taylor Swift song and decide to make music in that likeness, and not strictly rip it off, but literally like be like, okay, I'm gonna write a pop song that has these elements in it. Like, are you gonna come after me for that? Because there's, you know what I mean? Like,
pop music already sounds like it's AI generated.
Already.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the type of music that an AI music generator can produce at this point in time doesn't sound very different from what the best pop music producers are producing. It's modeled on that. So that's probably why pop music producers and the major labels are getting defensive, is because it's infringing on their territories so stringently. But all that it means, I think, is that pop music, what pop music sounds like, has to change now, and no one likes to change. It's costly.
No, but they've been pumping out the same shit for the last 25 years.
Yeah, and I mean, well, it has changed, but the point is, it's you're not going to hold back. They're not going to win. They might win a round or two, but the AI generated stuff it's providing a lot of employment opportunities for people. It's saving people on their marketing costs, and great, go power to you. If you're someone who's running a small business and you need, for example, you need to make as if you need to generate a nice backing track for your restaurant, Facebook ad, or you want to make people laugh so that they come visit your YouTube channel. So you generate a funny song with funny lyrics. You don't have to actually pay for it. Right. That's cool. I mean, go for it. That's totally it. But what that means is that the scarce element will now change. So it used to be that the scarce element was access to a musical recording artist who had the ability to compose and produce music. That was something that was like you paid for, and that was like, if you got someone singing a song about your restaurant, that was like a big deal, and people would pay attention to that. But now it will become very quickly obvious that it's just very common to generate this type of music, this AI stuff. And so what is scarce? And that's what drives the market forward. Everyone's always asking, what is scarce, and then they go for that, and they attribute value to stuff that may have been common in the past, but now it's scarce. The only thing that's valuable is that which is scarce: time, land, gold. That's the only reason that these things are valuable.
I think also, to your point, it's also novelty is scarce. Like, if you're going to use one of these pieces of software, it's building a song off of pre-existing music. It's not going to do, at least not with the current models or anything that they're planning on, it seems. It's not going to do something like, are you familiar with Faith No More? That band?
Not really, no.
So
I know the name, but
they had a side project called Mr. Bungle, and Mr. Bungle is the most eclectic combination of styles you could possibly imagine, and it is done in a way that's still listenable. I mean, literally like 70s to like heavy metal to like twisted carnival music to all these different things. It is a auditory cacophony of interesting things that just kind of meld together. None of these models would ever come together and create that. Not the way I see them right now. There's just no way.
So you'll probably see an increase in interest in the coming days for those types of gimmicky fringe elements. People will hunt down what's scarce, you know. Music created before AI will become considered increasingly valuable, even though it's old. The point is digital, like I've said now a couple of times, the stuff that's online doesn't expire.
Right.
Until SoundCloud dies or whatever. But, you know, so people are going to be satisfied like for a short time by the novelty of AI. And then there'll be an industry around it. There will be people as the software develops. Because can you imagine what's coming next? Suno AI is currently a web application. You can generate a song. But I mean, there's nothing to stop them from then creating a complete cloud-based DAW, which will enable you to generate all the individual parts of a song, tweak and refine elements as you like. For example, you could single out a particular guitar chord and change it, change its pitch or change its timbre or anything like that. Yeah. And then you could also have all of your changes be fed back into the app. So literally a connected platform which says, a lot of users are taking the guitar parts we generate and they are changing them from rock to jazz. Let's start to prioritize the jazz trend or whatever. Like whatever. That's never going to happen because no one ever prioritizes jazz or rock. But you get what I'm saying? Like there can be a data element to the actual creation of music that fuels the entire direction of popular music as we know it, which is coming in the future. But this idea of like that AI is going to somehow cover the world in a blanket of like inaccessibility, like people are going to be unable to experience art. And so it's, to me, the hype and the fear, it's like ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that after all that we've been through as human beings and after all that we've discovered about how our brains work, that we're going to somehow lose the ability to increase our own resolution. We already can see the green outline around a computer graphic in a film from the 90s. We look at Kurt Russell movies now and we laugh because it's funny, because you can see he's not really on a surfboard being chased down a highway by sharks. It's CG. You can see that. But at the time, it was awesome because it was new and we couldn't tell. And it's like, whoa, there's a shark. And the excitement overwhelms you. And that's what's happening now. I laugh myself, like I piss myself on the couch when I generate stupid songs about my wife being a sheep and that kind of thing. With Suno AI. It is so funny. I can't get over how fucking funny it is. You can put people's names in it. I sent my mate a message about the weekend we had. We went away to the farm and had a great time. I sent him like a Suno message. I'm like, here's what I think, man. Like, I love you, bro. And he pissed himself and we had a great time. And this is all very, like, really fun and games, but it's going to get tired. Like pretty soon we're going to be like, okay, what's real, what's scarce, where's the art, and like we're looking for that art all the time. And so as a composer, as someone who's runs the risk of being obsolete, you've got to look at it now and go, all right, my traditional composition approach has to change. I have to adapt, and artists are really agile and really good at adapting. So we've got to start to use Suno now. We've got to start to sample it. We've got to resample it, remix tracks. We've got to put out tracks that started as AI and develop them into something that can only be considered, like a human composition. That's the direction forward for people like us now.
I think both of those tools are going to evolve into some of the best ideation tools that a composer can use. It's going to spawn and stimulate new ideas, especially like coming back to a throwback to what I said earlier, which is, falling into the same pattern, the same key signatures, same pattern of playing. Suddenly you have this thing that's spitting out ideas and you're like, oh, I can develop that. That sounds really fun. I do the same thing auditioning patches in my computer.
That's it.
And it's the same principle, but now you just have this external program that could literally write the whole thing if you wanted to, but it's not going to tell the story you're looking to tell, because at the end of the day, those two pieces of software and anything else that comes that's going to be a large language model that builds off of a music database, you still need somebody driving the wheel, somebody behind the wheel that's going to tell the story. Otherwise, you're going to have these, like you said, there's going to be these nuances to it that are going to be like equivalent to the green outline of the CGI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
We'll have to look back at this time and say to our kids, like, yeah, man, like the pop music, which existed just before AI, when they hear that, they're going to go, this sounds like it was made by AI. Why did you guys listen to this crap? Like, and it's because at the time it was scarce. You needed access to a recording studio, and Taylor Swift was a real person, and that's the scarcity. But now that is all changing. So the question is, as always, what is scarce? And that is the thing that's where the value is going to be attributed. So if you're trying to get any kind of success as a musical artist, or anyone who feels threatened by AI now, you have to ask that question, start with what is scarce. I don't know. There are boundaries, of course. If you're a journalist and you start using ChatGPT to tell your stories, your newsroom might have a problem with that, but not for long. Pretty soon it's going to be considered very restrictive not to allow someone to use AI in their work.
Yeah.
But the question is it just literally a push a button and generate a song type of thing or not? And we're going to get really good really quickly, for the reason I mentioned the CG example, at distinguishing between what sounds like AI and what doesn't. And the people that are going to thrive are those who are able to adapt to and use the software. And besides, no one cares about AI. No one cares about machines. We think of them as
I don't have a
we don't care.
personal relationship with Suno.
Exactly.
I don't have a personal relationship with ChatGPT, right?
We can't care about it. We're not evolved to care about software.
Right.
So
and software is not evolved enough to have a consciousness and awareness enough to be, a conscious being that we interact with, and it's real, and it's not just 100 billion data point language model that's responding in the best way it thinks it should based on a phrase that you just said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not consciousness. That's really sophisticated programming, but it's not consciousness yet. This is we're on the springboard of a very, very deep conversation here. I don't want to do it. I'm tempted to, but I don't want to. Okay, that's fair. That's for another conversation another day.
Totally, man. You can get into the weeds with that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm excited about AI. I think it's going to be great. I've got to actually just start using Suno. I think what I'll do is release an upcoming collection, or start releasing songs that are at least partly AI composed, and see where that goes, exploring that.
What do you feel about publishing those? Are you going to publish those? My personal feeling is like, those are going to be publications, if I do, that are separate from my main catalog, just because the volatility and what's going on with it, I'm not really sure what's going to happen. So if I have anything that has any significant portion of it, or any like a double-digit percentage portion of it that's AI generated, I might set up a separate artist profile on DistroKid and just be like, okay, if any of this stuff gets pushed down, let's just keep that away from my core. My core's this is my purest core. This is my favorite stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's just paranoia, but
I don't think it makes, to me at least, it's like using Suno would be like using a VST. It's just a bigger, more powerful tool which enables you to express whatever the point is you're trying to make.
Because some VSTs have samples, sample-based stuff that loops and sequences.
There's a lot of hype around AI now, but it's new technology, but the moving forward technologically is not new. We've been doing it quite regularly for a long time.
Yeah.
So we just got to think of this as, like I said, digging with a bulldozer instead of a shovel. Like, you get greater volume. So it's, I don't know, it's exciting, Tim. I'm looking forward to this whole chapter and seeing where it goes, and
me too.
Maybe get caught up in it. But there are a lot of people explaining AI music and all of that stuff. A lot of musicians on YouTube putting out like scary videos about how it's going to destroy us. But I mean, I know YouTube rewards anything that makes you feel scared or angry. So
hyperbole. Yes.
Yeah.
The sky is falling. It's really not.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's all going to be okay.
I'm sure people freaked out with.
Let's make sure we. Yeah.
The computers era. Like with typewriters. Oh, everybody that uses a typewriter is going to lose their job. No, the job is just morphing into something different, you know?
Goes back to the wheel.
Yeah.
The first person who used the wheel got criticized for not using his arms to carry stones and wood, you know?
Yeah.
That's another way to look at it. Yeah, but software's here to stay, internet's here to stay, and we've got to evolve. I'm just excited about it. Yeah, I mean, is there anything, I've got to kind of get going, but is there anything else you want to chat about?
Just looking towards the future, you know, what do you think? We've touched on it at various points in this conversation, but do you think what we're doing is where we should be? This is the future of music creation. You know, the Creative Commons route, the alternative. I mean, if you want to be novel and you don't want to fall into the patterns of pop music and keep putting out the same 4 chords, you know, okay. and you want like a real, you know, you want to continue to push the boundaries of what is new in music and what is creative and build community. Personally, I think this is the route. I think this is the way we should go. It's the most satisfying.
Yeah, Creative Commons generally serves other creators. Pop music doesn't serve creators; it serves consumers. That's the role of. It's just broad appeal. You know, it's a one-way communication. But when you start serving other creative people, then I think that changes everything a little bit. And it relies on relationship. I don't know. I haven't really managed to ever get a community of any kind going. There are a couple of people who follow me on YouTube that show up regularly on the streams. But I've got a Discord that I recently launched that's just dead. I don't know how to start it. I don't know how to get it going. I think the trick is you've got to be all in, which I'm not. I spend an hour or 2 a day on my music, which I'd like to, you know, get that up. But people can sense whether you're someone who's just doing it for fun or someone who's really committed to it. And I've oscillated over time. Which one am I doing? And I've decided I'm not going to be quitting my day job and going fully into this like YouTube thing. I'm not. But that doesn't mean that over time, slowly, I can't start to attract people on a similar mindset. So I think if you're going to, so you ask the question, is this the way to do it? If you're going to do Creative Commons and if you're going to do this using your reputation to attract potential business as opposed to a traditional marketing approach, which is using, you know, like a capital outlay to attract business, then you have to be prepared to wait. You have to be patient. You have to be slow and consistent and patient and be smart. You have to learn YouTube. You've got to learn how the current state of the algorithm works. You've got to learn how to optimize stuff, certain things. You might have to pay, like I'm probably going to pay for TubeBuddy, which is the kind of YouTube
analytics tool.
Yeah, and it's analytics. It's a lot more than that. It's just, I think it pays for itself if you are putting out regular content like I'm doing, then it can really help with that. But let's see. And I think it's all about balance, Tim. It's work-life balance, but it's also within your creative life. It's going, well, what am I trying to do here? And just being honest with yourself. Like, you know, I'm not a particularly interesting person to anyone, you know, under the age of 35. I'm not trying to break into popular consciousness, like you said at the beginning of our chat. You've got no aspirations of being like a pop star. All that stuff I think has to just really seep into your messaging and, you know, your image online. And like yesterday I changed my YouTube header. It was a bit shitty, and so I changed it to just a quick my name and a quick explainer underneath of what I do. This is the banner image of my YouTube site. But then I added an Ableton knob with it's turned like all the way up. It's actually turned up to 420 dB. And then the knob's title is Radness. So it's like, I am the raddest guy that you're going to find. And the word radness is like old school. It's like a dad joke. So that's my vibe. I'm not trying to pretend to be a cool music producer anymore. I'm just a fucking dad with 2 hours a day who thinks he's really rad and makes 90s sitcom music. And that's life. That's
I love it, dude.
I'm happy with that, you know.
I think what's really genius about this community, or about joining this community and propagating this community, is just this. It's the camaraderie you can have not only with your with your fan base and everything else, but fellow composers that aren't that are mature enough to know that we all have something to bring to the table, and there's plenty of content creators and consumers out there for all of our music. So if I help you, you help me, we help all of us,
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where it's at. This is like when I find, I feel like going forward, like when I find a path that's helping, I would be remiss not to share it with you, not to share it with Alex, because like this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build these communities so that we're adding value, and it's not just this thing that's pay to play on terrestrial radio that just gets shoved down your throat. I haven't listened to terrestrial radio in like 15 years because I could care less.
No, that approach doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who knows if this one does? We'll see. I mean, I'm starting to see more paychecks, which is great.
Yeah.
Because slowly, like from the catalog, I get like an increased amount from the streaming services, but that's like nothing. It's mostly like people finding me and saying, "Hey, can I commission you?" And like, I've had 3 commissions in the last 6 months, which is like more than I've had in the 5 years before that. So I've started to like see the reputation that I've built. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explore the CC Mixter community, which is the actual Creative Commons.
Yeah.
It's really like jank. It's the website's really old and the moderators are slow, but I think there's a lot of heart in it. That's what you would expect from a community. Like I said, it's like you go there and you help, you pour the coffee and you kind of get to know people a bit. And I've just got to get this idea out in the open of like, Creative Commons Ableton Live templates, because I've seen Ableton Live templates which you can like pay for and then download and remix kind of copyright freestyle, but that's like you're buying a product. And then I've seen Creative Commons music tracks like WAV files and all that. But I like this idea of like, do you know that when you use this Ableton Live template, you can actually republish it as long as you credit me as the original. So it's a share alike license, CC by SA.
I think you're onto something, man.
Gaining reputation while providing, I don't know who the user is though yet. I know that a commercial music producer might be like, nah, this isn't really the style of music we produce. I know that a young person who's just started with Ableton Live might love the idea, but not actually want to pay $6 a month for my Patreon for it. So I'm trying to find out who it's for and what what the outcomes are, and then refine that. Yeah. So maybe I'll send you a pack. You don't use Ableton Live, eh? I want people to.
Ever since hearing that you were using it, it's made me interested in exploring it and checking it out for sure. So
it's fun.
It'd be a cool way to interact with you going forward too, to like test it out and check out some of your stuff. Check out some of the templates and play around with them. I know there's gonna be a learning curve, but that's fine. I've learned. Yeah,
well, let's do this again, and we'll have a chat, and we'll do another podcast episode or a YouTube live stream or something. Maybe I thought of a cool idea of synchronizing live streams, so you could actually stream your setup, and I could stream my setup, and then we could, like using Zoom or another software like that, we could share a screen. So it's literally like one live stream being broadcast simultaneously to 2 different channels, and then we kind of take turns. So like, here's me showing you my Ableton setup, and then we flip over to you and you share your screen on Zoom, and then you have the kind of the airtime for that section. I don't know how to do it. I'll ask my friend, but that type of thing is cool. Yeah.
This first round, I'm hoping the audio is going to be okay, because I didn't go to the point on this setup. This is my PC setup. That's my Mac with the actual microphone and everything else. And in retrospect, I probably should have done it with the mic, but it should be fine. The last time I did a Zoom call this way, I was able to capture everything. But hey, that's part of it too. Is like anything too refined online for content, people get bored of it because they're like, it's overproduced.
Great to chat to you, dude.
Yeah. Likewise.
Thank you so much for your time and attention. I appreciate you being on the same page. It's super cool to meet you.
Yeah, likewise, man. And I hope to do this again real soon, man.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make a day. We'll get a date on email. But yeah, just subscribe to each other's channels and follow each other and share the love. Yeah, see where it goes.
Awesome, man. Great talking to you. Have a great day.
Have a good day.